guys everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Wave 2 Deluxe Class Elita 1. Before we take a look at her, let's take a look at the packaging. So of course, up front here we have the Legacy logo, we have Transformers. On the side of course we have the Elita 1 text. We have a nice picture of her in a really cool looking Buggy alt mode. Of course there is an open window displaying her and the packaging. Of course she's right there. And of course on the side here we do have two shots of her in her robot mode, a close-up of her face, and a more spread out view of her with her blasters looking very cool in a nice battle pose. And the back, she transforms in 14 steps. Of course, there's a picture of the robot and alt mode. Also, a nice barcode for stats. If you want to scan that, you can. And on the other side, of course, we do have the Autobot Legacy artwork. And that is pretty much it for the packaging. Let's now get into the review. We have Elita 1 in her really cool looking robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very top with that head sculpt, of course. I think this looks very accurate and nostalgic to the G1 show. Of course, we have some nice silver and yellow for that visor section on her forehead. Some nice white for these antenna/earpieces. Some pink for the main helmet section. Some nice white for the face. Some blue for the eyes, and some pink for the lips. Getting down to the arms and the shoulder, of course, some nice reddish maroon for the shoulder, some white for the elbow, and hand, and of course some pink for that forearm. Getting down to the chest, of course, nice Autobot symbol done in red with some pink around her neck region. Getting to the chest, of course, some nice red and white, and for the stomach region, some more of that maroon, pink, and white for the stomach. And getting down to the crotch, of course, some nice red. Getting down to the legs as well, some nice white, some more of that maroon and red. And you can actually pick out the wheels there, which actually look pretty good. Some nice white in the center and some black for the tire, and some more maroon for the feet. She does have a little bit of a backpack, but I actually think you can sort of slightly maneuver that however you wish. So you can kind of compress these if you want to, but this is actually how it's supposed to look due to the packaging and the instructions. But if you want, you can slightly modify the backpack to be a little bit more compressed. But detail-wise, I actually think she looks very good. Let's now get into the articulations. As for the head, of course, you can move left to right, and of course a little bit up and a little bit down. As for the arm, of course, you can move out and in, up and down. There is also a swivel at the arm. There's also an elbow bend. There is also swivel at the hand. There's also waist rotation. The leg can kick that far out, that far forward, that far back. And of course there is a swivel, a knee bend, and an ankle pivot. So it is slightly limited, unfortunately, kicking outward movement because there's this piece here, so unfortunately it is a little bit limited, but overall articulation is pretty standard for a deluxe size figure. But that's pretty much it for the articulation and details. Let's now get into the accessories. So she does come with two blasters, which do look pretty cool. They're not identical. I kind of wish maybe we just got two of these and not this big chunky one. I don't really like this one that much, but overall, looks pretty cool with this nice energon-infused transparent blue plastic, so you can store those, but also it does come with this interesting kind of earpiece. So I know it's supposed to resemble the top of her head, as you can see, but I'm not really sure the purpose of why this was included, but I can get into the storage of it. So, do the instructions, they say to store it back here. As you can see, there is a port, and there is a peg, and you just plug it in there like that. I really don't know why this is a part of the figure. You can see this in the alt mode, of course, we'll get to that after transformation, but for this mode it really does not serve any purpose. And as for the alt mode, I really don't like how it looks in the alt mode either, so really does it need an accessory? I don't really think so. But getting down to the blasters, of course, you can just store these in her hands like that and have her blast at the Decepticons, which I think looks pretty cool. But as I said before, I kind of wish it just came with two identical slender ones, not one slender one and one huge chunky one. I think just it looks kind of weird in my opinion, but that looks pretty cool. And if you want to, you can actually combine these if you want to. So you just take these out of her hands. There is a port on this one and a peg on the bigger one, and you can just plug this into place like that. And then you can store this in her hand like this. So she can have one big fully armed blaster, which I think looks okay. But that's pretty much it for the robot mode. Let's now get into some quick comparisons. Let me just move her arm down so you can get all the details. So first up, here's Elita 1 with Netflix Elita 1. So as you can see, of course, design-wise, there's a lot of characteristics they actually kept and are very similar. As, of course, for the head, they do have those little pointed ear section. You can actually see the Autobot symbol is in the same position, so right below the head. Also, the shoulders are do have that kind of same point. And overall, color scheme-wise is quite similar. Mold-wise, of course, completely different. This one is 100% a shell former, and yes, there is some parts forming involved, and I know a lot of people are bothered by that. It doesn't really bother me. I actually quite like the landing craft sort of hovercraft thing she has, so I'm perfectly fine with having two different versions, because they are extremely different in transformation and, of course, molds. But there is some similar design cues, like the ears, of course, again, and the color scheme is quite similar, as you can see. But between the two, which one I like more? Definitely the Legacy one. Let me know in the comment section down below which one you like more, the Netflix or the Legacy Wave 2. Let's now move on to another quick Legacy Fembot comparison. Here she is with Legacy Wave 1 RC. And yes, a lot of people do have the problem with the kibble on this one, so I do have to agree, probably the better of the two has to be Elita. But I actually do quite like the Energon infused blades, but overall, they do look very cool next to each other. And now for one last robot mode comparison, here she is with another Wave 2 Deluxe. Here she is with Knockout, and his review should be up on the channel right now, so if you want to go see that, check that out after this review. And I will be getting Tarantulas and Wild Rider very, very soon, so stay tuned for those reviews coming on the channel very, very soon. And that's pretty much it for the comparisons. Let's now get into transformation into the vehicle buggy mode. We'll get down to transformation into the car buggy mode. So what you're going to want to do is get the arms. You can use that swivel at the bicep. You can just rotate that in, and then you can rotate the hand forward. Do the same thing at the other arm, of course. Rotate that in, move the hand forward. Then what you're going to want to do is rotate at the waist just like that. And there we go. Then you can bring these whole leg sections out like this, and then you can get this whole fin piece and bring that forward. Do the same thing on the other side, of course. Bring that whole piece forward, bring this out. You can then tab the legs together like this, which can be a bit of trouble sometimes. Just tab that together. There you go. And then what you can do is now go to the backpack. So you can leave this earpiece here. It really doesn't matter. You can take it off if you want to. I'm just going to leave it there. You can hinge this whole section up, and then what you can do is get these whole car pieces and hinge these down. As you can see, of course, there is a slot there, and there is a tab on this car piece. So just hinge this down, tab that into place. Same thing on the other side, tab those into place just like that. You can then hinge this whole section up, and you're going to bring out this whole back car piece, and then you can start to connect everything together. As you can see, there is a tab and there is a slot in the arm. That's just going to tab into place like that. Do the same thing on the other side, tab that into place, and then you can get the legs and just hinge these all the way up. As you can see, there is a whole slot section, and there is a tab. Hinge that up like that, and there is a tab and slot up there as well. So just align everything up. Sometimes it does take some fiddling like that, and there we have one side almost complete. Same on the other side. And as for the last step, you can just fold the feet up like that, and there we have Elita 1 in a really cool looking buggy vehicle mode. Let's take a look at the Legacy Elita 1 in a really cool looking buggy car mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the rear front, of course, some nice white for the headlights, the front hood section. We have some more white for this grille section there, looking very good. I think they did a really good job with the wheels too. I'm really glad they're not mushroom peg. Of course, some black for the tire, and for the inner part, also done in that nice white silver, of course, on the side, some nice maroon, pink. I really do like how there's a lot of curves. It's a very interesting looking vehicle mode. If you watched my initial reaction or news video on Wave 2, when I first was talking about this, I always thought the robot mode looked really good, but the alt mode was just so weird to me. And I actually really do like it. It's a bit odd, but I actually really do like it. Of course, more towards the back, quite a bit of red. This whole fin section's more maroon for these big boosters back there, and I actually really do like how they transform these. I was really worried that they were just going to leave them folded out like that, and I think that looks really ugly. I'm really glad these folded in. And actually, I think they sculpted the big boosters really well. If you wanted to, you could actually plug some blaster pieces into all 4 ports there if you wanted to. And of course, this nice windscreen here actually looks really good with this transparent blue plastic. And it almost looks like you can actually open it, but you can't. But overall, detail-wise, I actually really do like it. Let's now get in one quick comparison in the vehicle mode here. Elita 1 is, of course, with Netflix Elita 1. And in comparison, this one is so much better. This just looks like a box on wheels in comparison. Alone, I think it's an okay figure. Yes, there is definitely shelf forming involved with this figure, but I think it's overall a pretty fun one, especially with the whole hovercraft vibe. But in this mode, you can clearly see one has a lot more paint apps, which one is a lot more interesting and a lot more detailed, and of course, course, much more interesting transmission. That being said, of course, there is some shell forming involved. As you can see, you can really pick out the entire top half. Still here, here are the arms, of course, the head, the chest is pretty much unchanged, kind of like this one, as you can see. Pretty much just the legs are folded up, so there is some similarities in transformation, but still there's a lot more steps on this one than this one. And detail-wise, you can see there's a lot more paint apps on this one than that one. But the style, as you can see, there's some of that transparent blue plastic on each of them, quite a bit of white and red, but overall look pretty cool next to each other. Let's now get into accessory storage. Of course, it does come with 3, one of them being is this earpiece. You can store that there if you want to, and also does come with those 2 blasters. You can just plug this into the side, and this big, huge, chunky one you can just plug into the side as well. Or if you wanted to, you could combine them and have one big mega blaster if you wanted to. Getting down to this accessory, again, I don't really see the purpose of it. My assumption was it's supposed to be like her head is sort of like partially transformed, and this is like actually the top of her head there. I'm not really sure. I think they're maybe trying to create some sort of like mirage. I don't really know. But I think as an accessory, it's kind of pointless, so most of the time whenever I have it in this mode, I'm going to leave that piece off the side. Just make sure you don't lose it, because it's actually very small and pretty easily to lose. I kind of just wish maybe it was never included, but that is just my guess. Maybe the G1 toy had the ears sticking at the top. Maybe the head was not stored on the bottom. It was actually like partially through the vehicle mode, and like the top ears were stuck through there. I really don't know. I've never seen the G1 toy of Elita 1 before, so maybe that's how it was. But overall, I think the vehicle mode actually looks very cool. I really like the Energon infused blaster stored there, but that's pretty much it for the alt mode. Let's now get into the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Elita 1. Into the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Wave 2 Deluxe Class Elita 1. Overall, in the vehicle mode, I actually really do like the look of it. It's much more interesting, a lot more paint apps than the Netflix one. The Netflix one was really just a brick with wheels, not very good at all. They needed a lot more paint apps and, of course, very few accessories. Getting down to the accessories, of course, there's the top antenna piece, which I really don't know the purpose of it. Typically, I'll probably store it in the robot mode. Of course, it just stores in the back. In this mode, I'll typically will just take it off, which, if you want to, you can. Just make sure you don't lose it, because it is a very small piece. As for the blasters, you can just store them on the side, or, of course, you can combine them together, which looks pretty cool. I just don't know why there are 2 different types of blasters. I would just prefer, of course, 2 of those or 2 of these smaller ones. In my preference, I'd like 2 of these smaller ones. It just looks better, in my opinion, because it's kind of weird with a small, slender figure with a huge, giant blaster. It just looks kind of weird to me. Getting down to transformation, it's much more involving than the Netflix one. Of course, the Netflix one, if you have any version of that mold, Lifeline, Elita 1, RC, or any of them, you really just kind of fold it into a box, and it's not very fun or enjoyable at all. This one, of course, you transform the legs a lot more. But if you do look at the bottom of this vehicle mode, you can actually tell pretty much the entire top half of the figure is completely unchanged. The entire torso, the head, and the arms are really unchanged. Most of the transformation is really the legs and the backpack. So it does get into the shell-forming territory, but it's not nearly as bad as the Netflix version. Of course, getting down to transformation, it's actually pretty enjoyable and fun and simple. Not nearly as annoying as just, folding everything up and just putting it into a brick. It's not that fun at all. But, yeah, more steps, more interesting. It's not that hard. After I used the instructions about 1 time, and I got it done pretty easy. Getting down to, of course, the remote, I really like the head sculpt. Did a really good job with that. Very nostalgic and accurate to the G1 show. Of course, accessories, you can store both blasters in the hand. And, of course, the earpiece or top antenna piece just stores on her back, which I really have no complaints there, because I really don't know the purpose of it. But I kind of wish the 2 blasters were the same. That's just really reinstating what I said earlier. And of course, articulation, pretty standard for a Deluxe. I think it did a way better job with this figure over the Netflix one, because with the Netflix one, of course, there's the whole hoverboard thing. I know a lot of people had a problem with that, because if you attach it to the figure, it would give a huge backpack. I typically do actually use the hoverboard, because she's actually a really big pain to stand. For some reason, my Earthrise RC, Lifeline, and Elita 1 are the biggest pain to actually stand without falling over, so I think they did a better job with this one. It's a little bit more skinny and slender, but you can actually stand it without it falling over, so I think they did a better job with this. The joints are much tighter, and of course, just overall a much more enjoyable figure. Let me know what you think of this Legacy Elita 1 in the comment section down below. Which one do you like more, the Legacy or the Netflix? I think probably most people will prefer this one over the other. Overall, a pretty good figure. Hope you enjoyed this review, of course. Tarantulas and Wild Rider will be coming very soon for reviews. Also, I already did review Knockout, so if you want to see the review, of course, go check that out right after this one. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll